Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a really exciting one. I am going to be talking about some of the first few things that I would recommend you do after getting engaged. No, I'm not a wedding planner, as I'm sure a lot of you know. I'm a hairstylist full-time, but I am a fiance and I am engaged, and I've been planning my wedding. I got engaged last year and I get married next year. Just for if you're newly engaged, or if you have a feeling that it's coming, or if you just want to get the, even if you're not technically ring engaged yet, but you are starting the wedding planning process. I do know that there are so many crazy emotions that go through you the first few days after you get engaged. So I figured, I knew that after we got engaged, I was like, where the heck do we begin? I was you're very excited, but you're also very overwhelmed. So I'm hoping that this kind of helps to be a guide to somebody. Again, especially since I did only get engaged last year, so it's not like it was, you know, something that happened very long ago for me or anything. Yes, you can look online. Some like wedding planning websites have like little blog posts up, but I feel like they're just a little vague. So I figured I could give a little bit of like my background of like how we did things and things that I would change or things I'd have to stay the same, maybe things I'd add or take away, you know, that kind of stuff. I hope that this helps you guys. If you are interested, just keep watching. But yeah, so to start off, if you are a new fiance, congratulations. I know that you probably just had like the absolute best day of your life. If you were anything like me, as excited and just overjoyed that you are also like a little nervous, a little anxious, a little overwhelmed too, just because, especially if this is your first engagement, like it was my first engagement as well. You know, there's just a lot of new things now that you have to worry about and think of and plan of that you haven't had to do. And if you're anything like me too, we're like both on John and I's sides too, we're the first siblings on our sides to be engaged and plan a wedding. So it's not just new to us, but it's new to our families as well. So you're all kind of like learning together. And so if I can offer any type of help or insight without being that crazy person that is in your life giving like a ton of unsolicited wedding advice, I would like to do that for you. So I have a list of a few things on my phone that I figured, again, just like things that I would recommend you do. And I'm not saying nothing is like in any particular order. You can definitely check out my engagement video down below. I think we even have the video in there as well. So none of these things are necessarily in particular order. However, this first thing is like either if you just recently got engaged or you're not engaged yet. Celebrate, share the news, and enjoy the moment. So obviously you want to share the news, especially with people that either know that you're about to get engaged, whether you're now fiance, told them, or you kind of had a feeling that it was happening, or your closest friends and family, you know, what have you. But obviously you do want to share the news with them. Try not to overshare the news so that you don't have that obligation to reach out to everybody immediately after it happens. I know what John, my fiance, did was he pretty much only told our immediate families on both sides right when he did have the ring and when he was planning to propose, partially because one, we didn't want to have to worry about, like, we didn't want to spend the night on our phones talking to everybody. He was also kind of scared. He didn't want me to find out too, so he's scared to like tell some of my friends. I know what I did personally that worked really well for me and worked well for us was, I know that night that we did get engaged, like I said, we did obviously call our immediate families and let them know. We told them how it went and all that stuff. I texted a picture to like my closest friends and I was like, you know, I'll tell you, I'll call you tomorrow, I'll tell you the story tomorrow, you know. And then personally, we just celebrated ourselves that night. I know, so we did, like I said, we did have an engagement party that week after. He was talking about doing the engagement party that night, but for some reason he didn't, and I honestly like that he didn't, because I was very glad to just have that moment just to celebrate like specifically with him, and then we were able to then celebrate with our families then like a little bit after. But yeah, figure out what works best for you. I would definitely just really advise, whether you are celebrating your engagement with just your fiance that night, or you are having an engagement party with you know, friends and family and loved ones, just enjoy that moment. That is like one of the best, you know, you truly feel like you're on top of the world, and you know, you just want to be sure that you are enjoying that moment with the people that matter most to you. And you don't want to be worried about being on your phone. We actually didn't even announce our engagement until the morning after on social media, because you know that you're gonna get hit with a bunch of calls, texts, and all that stuff. So and that's what we just decided that was best for us, so that we could, again, and it was kind of fun too, because then we kind of like went to bed that night and woke up feeling like we had like our own little secret, and it was really cool. And then we were corny with it, and we even like made our posts at the exact same time too. So you definitely have to do all that if you want to. Just know I love that I was able to truly just enjoy that moment with him. Just be very mindful of who you're sharing that news with right away, because they can always, you know, that can always wait, but that feeling of being on top of the world partially doesn't go away. But you know, when it's like that freshest feeling and whatnot, you just want to be able to enjoy that as much as you can. So for number 2, I have figure out how long you want to be engaged for, and realistically when you'd want your wedding. Obviously, especially right after you get engaged, you're like, oh, I want to get married tomorrow. I remember that. I think I literally said that a couple times, like that first few weeks. I was like, can we just go to the courthouse and get married? Some realistic things that you want to consider with this is your budget, your season, if you do have a specific date, how exactly are you doing your wedding? Are you planning on, you know, going to the courthouse? Hello, you know, are you doing a destination wedding? Do you have a specific date too? You just need to keep all those things in mind to factor in how long you plan to be engaged for. John and I are personally doing a longer engagement. We are doing a 2-year engagement. We did know when we started talking about engagement, we were talking about getting engaged and planning a wedding for, I'd say, maybe like 6-ish months before we got engaged fully. I might be a little bit off with that, but I feel like it was around 6 months, and we said right off the bat we knew that we both wanted to be engaged for 2 years. We just wanted to have enough time to comfortably save the money that we were saving for it, and we kind of knew it was either going to be one of those things that we could get married in a year and maybe not be able to have everything that we want, to be financially smart with it, or we could wait an extra year and be able to comfortably afford things a little bit better. So but everyone's a little different. I think it just depends on your budget situation and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind, and I think that's just, if you haven't already talked about that, like I said, if you were anything like John and I, you might have already talked about it, so you might already know. But yeah, just start getting some dates around and figure out how exactly you want to go about getting married, if you will. So this one is a pretty big one in my opinion. You want to communicate on planning strategies. So in terms of that, it's like, who is going to help you with what? I definitely think that you guys should have a conversation about like how involved you're going to have each other be, and you should also see too, are we going to have anyone additional help us with stuff? I don't necessarily recommend you picking out your bridal party at this point. However, I would definitely suggest communicating a lot with your fiance on how you're going to go about planning. Is your fiance planning to help out with the planning process? Are they not? Do you not want them to? Are you going to have any other family members help you out in the planning process, or any close friends? Who is it that you're going to be having helping you plan the wedding? Yes, you're going to have bridesmaids, maids of honor, you know, groomsmen, best man, if you are planning on having a party. But along with that, you know, who is going to actually be helping you in terms of fully planning this wedding? And I even mean besides a wedding planner, but I think just figuring out how you're going to go down the planning process is very important. Just figure out a system that works best for you guys, especially so that your fiance can be involved. I know some of them might just want to, you know, just tell me what I need to wear and when I need to show up, but it's their day too, and in my opinion, I feel like they should be somewhat involved, even if they're only handling one aspect of it. Another thing along with that actually is make a wedding email. I learned this from TikTok. We actually just did this the first thing this morning. But to help with communication, we have ours as just new last name at Gmail. And then what we're going to do with that is that's going to be the email that we're going to communicate to our vendors with. Well, like I said, we just made this morning. We're going to move everyone to, again, this joint email that we have, so that even though I'm not the one being in contact as much with the caterer, I can still go back through the email thread and still see, you know, what's going on. So I am still kind of in the know. And it's just easier to have things streamlined as well, so that if when you guys are talking wedding stuff, you guys know you can just go back to that joint email and you know, just go back through those threads. If you're doing a longer engagement like me, where like some of these things, like again, our photographer and our photographer, videographer, and venue were booked in December of 2021. So when we were getting into the nitty gritty things in late summer of 2023, that's going to be hard to like continue to go back to. I definitely recommend getting a wedding email. I also recommend having a folder of all of your contracts as well. If you do sign any electronic contracts as well, having an online folder on your computer of all of your wedding documentation too is very, very important, so that again everything is just streamlined and easy to find, because you never know when you might need it. Thing is a very fun one. Gather your inspiration. Take your time with this. I had ideas of things that I wanted, but I would say it took me like 3 or 4 months after getting engaged to have a pretty full idea of the inspiration I wanted for our wedding, so that you could very clearly communicate what your theme and what your vibe is and what exactly the look is that you're going for. Spend lots of time on Pinterest, and I feel like TikTok has become an amazing, amazing wedding tool. Obviously YouTube is one. I personally feel like you should give yourself, if you can, like at least a month to try to gather your wedding inspo, because and for me, like I said, and for me personally, it even took me upwards to 3 months. Now I did take my time with things because I knew that I had the time, but I definitely think that you should factor that into when you're trying to figure out how long you want to be engaged for, is giving yourself a few weeks to a month to figure out what it is that you want. Get set up on wedding websites. Even if you're planning on having a wedding planner, I definitely think getting set up on like a wedding platform website, I don't know what they call it, but The Knot, Zola, Wedding Wire, I don't know, those are the top 3 that come in my head. We're set up on The Knot personally. I did get set up on Zola too. And I believe I also got set up on Wedding Wire, and I got set up on all 3 of them, and I just started working with all of them a little bit, and I feel like you're able to quickly figure out which one seems the most user-friendly to you. For me personally, The Knot was the most user-friendly to me. Determine the size of your wedding. You kind of have an idea of what you would want your wedding to be sized at, but especially if you have like a lot of family or you have a lot of friends, and you're not completely sure, I definitely would recommend making a mock guest list at first, because when you do go to booking vendors, especially your venue, that's going to be like the first question they're going to ask is, how many people are you planning at your wedding? Obviously, you're not going to have a set in stone number. They're very well aware of that. You don't have to give that to them until anywhere from like 30 days to a few days before the actual wedding, when people have RSVP'd and all that stuff. Definitely make a mock guest list, because then you're able to communicate to your venue an idea of what you're planning to have. Definitely getting an idea though of the size of your wedding, so you have a range, is definitely going to be very helpful for you to have an idea too. And not just your venue, but every vendor is going to ask for that as well. So that, and then you just kind of have it known that you're going to be, again, in this kind of range, and they have an idea as well, because you don't know how much they have to plan on their end for that number of people. You might not think it's a lot of people, but you never know. So then my last tip is determine the things that are the most important to invest in for you, and the things that are least important to invest in that you can maybe save on. So I would definitely recommend sitting down with your partner and just kind of talking to each other, figuring out what things, even if you can still have a budget for them, but things that you want to prioritize your budget with the most, and things that you don't have to prioritize your budget with. So things that we decided that we wanted to prioritize our budget in was our venue and photography and videography. And things that we don't feel like we wanted to prioritize as much in was catering. That doesn't mean that we're not going to feed our people. We still have like a food vision and ideas that we have in mind, but we don't have like a specific caterer in mind. But that we don't really want to like have as much of a flexible budget with. We have an idea of where we would like it to stay around, and we're kind of prioritizing finding our vendor based on that, and if they could be within our budget, and going from there. So yeah, I would definitely just suggest figuring out the things that matter most to you, the things that you know that will help complete your wedding vision, or that you would be willing to splurge a little bit more on if you can. Have a little bit more of a flexible budget with. And things that maybe wouldn't make or break your vision, that you could, be a little bit more strict on the budget. It doesn't mean, I'm going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars necessarily, but things that you could be like, okay, our budget for this is this, and we're not going to go over it. What helped us was we kind of made a grand budget for everything. For our wedding as a whole. So you make your budget for, okay, we want our wedding to be, X amount of dollars grand total. then you can kind of break that down. I would definitely do a lot of research. We just kind of looked up how much weddings on average cost in Ohio. That's where we live, and that's where our wedding's gonna be at. Get some quotes going from your venues as well. Then you can kind of go from there. And like I said, the Knot has a great budgeting tool. You can start plugging in what your vendors are going to be, and it kind of lets you know how much money you have left if you want to stay within that budget, and you can alter it as you go. We've definitely have had to revisit that whole budgeting conversation a few times and keep that conversation open for it, because definitely cost will vary. Anyway, I think that's all it for me. If you are a bride and if you have any other tips as well, definitely leave them in the comments below. If you guys have any questions or anything, if you feel like I can help you with anything or offer any insight, definitely reach out. You know, you can find me on Instagram. You can also shoot me a question in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, I hope this really helps you out. I really hope it does. Let me know if it does. And congrats, happy wedding planning, and I will see you guys in my next wedding planning video. Bye.